It's Roger again, Saturday, February 16th, 2019. Today talking about dragons in search of history. History Channel documentary. Now, very, very nicely done, as a matter of fact. And I watched it all the way up until it came into this area here where in South America. But they dragons all over the world, everywhere, everywhere, everywhere. And they had different types of personalities in the Asian areas. They loved them. They were benevolent creatures. And in South America, they ate people. So here's what's going on here now. There's an American dragon. I'm going to show you that in a minute. And it's extremely well articulated. There's no question in my mind. So listen to this. Quetzalcoatl. Feathered serpent.
Where did he come from? And why does a dragon adorn one of the most sacred sites of Aztec civilization? The answer begins with a strange paradox. While dragons of the old world were monstrous demons, the Aztec dragon was a god.
All right, let's look at this dragon. Now, this is apparently from some of their glyphs, and they ate people. I mean, it looks like it to me. Now, look at the plumage. Here's what I want you to look at: the plumage, the shapes, because I think they were portraying
Far
what
from threatening civilization,
it was.
The dragon Quetzalcoatl was revered for
See these little circular things in the front here? Remember that.
founding it.
Remember this type of architecture.
According to
Okay, it comes down. You see these kind of little fluty looking things? Just keep an eye on
Aztec
that.
legend, Quetzalcoatl
You see this? See those flutes? Now I'm sorry.
launched Aztec culture. He brought writing and agriculture.
All right. A lot of face painting too. All right. Now let's take a look at what I think is that same creature or one of his friends. All right. Remember I said remember those little fluty things? You see that little structures? These structures here. That is not normal weathering or any form of a natural geological formation. It's not. Now, remember this. And this I need you to remember for yourself, for when you go up here and start looking around. Look for separations. You see this stuff up here? It's nothing like this. Not a darn thing like it. Look, it's totally different, totally different, totally different. So, what are we looking of importance? We're looking this fluty stuff. So, where does that fluty stuff go? We know it doesn't go this way. It goes that way. And we know it doesn't go this way. It stays in this band. So, let's come back and look at it. Look at that. It goes just all the way down here. And it chokes off right here. And then it continues down this way. So we continue with it, and we continue with it, and we see it continues that fluty stuff. And if you come in, you can see it's that same sort of fluty arrangement here. You see it? Now, they claim, I don't know what they claim, to be honest with you, it's Appalachian Mountains. No, and it comes down, and it literally snakes around here. And it continues, and it is that fluty stuff. And you say, boy, that's interesting. And then you come around, you continue back out and you look at it, and it keeps coming around, and it sort of looks like it might sort of dead end in this area here. Now it's sort of different. You think, well, that's about the end of it. So I came back out, and I'm looking at this, and I'm thinking, that doesn't make much sense. But then, you look for pattern distinction. So I look for here, and this is the sort of whitish, and I see this area here, all the way up from Washington, D.C., all the way around this circle, and then around this way. And then all of a sudden I look and I say, holy smokes, that looks like a dragon's head. And then I continue on, and I look up here, and that looks like some kind of feathered plumage coming off of that dragon's head. I mean, it is what it is. It's that same fluty looking stuff. And after that, there is none. There's none, you see? There's none. So it comes out to here, there's that fluty plumage sticking right off of the dragon's head. It's coming right out of the dragon's head in Little Rock. Strange. Strange place. All right, now, what else do we see here? We see another pattern break. I say that's the dragon's nose right there, and that's his head snaking up over this way, and that's the flutiness, whether it laid back this way and just fell this way, I don't know. But I'm looking at all of these patterns, and then I'm looking at some of these rivers and so forth, because he has to breathe, he has to eat, and he has these kind of things, just like the other one in Morocco. So I look down and I say, wow, look at those little crazy things. What is all that about? Look at these swishes and swishes and circles all around here, bordering what I think is his head. And maybe there's, I don't know what they are, but that's not normal. And that's where it borders right at the edge. So what is it doing? Is it feeding scales here? Are these all little scales that are hanging off here? Or some need it has to have blood? Because this is literally, at one time, these were blood. What you're looking at when you see these channels and so forth, they were either blood or they were cavities that have collapsed and now they are filled with liquids. That's what's going on. And when you look down this whole thing, you say, wow, 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 wow. That's what I said. Maybe about 6 or 7 more times, but I said it. And it runs all the way on that dragon's nose. All the way down to, I mean, I don't know what else to say. It is what it is. You don't see that. You don't see that anywhere else. But it runs all the way down at that dragon's nose. So now I say, well, he's going to breathe. Well, where would he breathe? He'd breathe down through his throat this way, and he'd spit stuff out. And again, you have that borderline. So I looked at that. And I said, well, it certainly could be. Certainly could be. It comes out here. Right, and it's all that loopy looking stuff again. And it goes right down exactly where you would expect his throat to go. Right down through his throat. And it goes right back here. And it continues down until, I believe these are where the injectors might be, somewhere in the throat area. Like the other, maybe this whole region here was injectors, because that's about the region of the Moroccan one that was spitting out the toxic venom. But anyway, the throat goes all the way up and it circles right around and it comes back. So let's follow it. Here it is. It comes all the way up and around, and it comes around to here. You see? It's not hard to see. And it comes back down, it comes back down, and it comes all the way up through his gut. See it? And there it goes. Just comes down, 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 down. It hits here, and it swish, 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 right up his gut. All right? And then you go with the dragon and its whole thing, whether these were the wings right here, I don't know. Whether it was skinny, whether it was fat like a duck, I don't know. But it swings around this way. You see the separation between here and here. I say the body is running through here somewhere. And right up about there where Washington is would be the anus. And up above is where the end of the fluty tail is. After that, it doesn't have the flutes anymore. They're gone. So I'm saying that we know what Washington is, and we know what these other areas are here, and we can see these all this flutiness. I think it's a dragon. And, if you could figure out any way why all of these little squiggly little things are coming together, only where the guy's nose is and his face, look, that's not normal. Nobody did that. That is all some kind of blood vessels that service this layer of tissue and jiggle around back and forth, in and out through the blood. That is not your normal course of water. So everybody knows about this one now, I hope, and of course we all know about the one in Morocco. Probably should call him Morocco. I don't know, but I know this is serious stuff, really. I mean, I'm making a joke out of it, but it's pretty damn serious. And this is the dragon's head right here. This one's a little easier to see. Being in the desert, you're defoliated, And of course, the dragon throat. The same thing. They have a dragon throat. He spits out toxins. This one, the other one, I didn't see any toxins. This one here is very, very clear, very evident. It's identical. Literally identical to the most toxic snake venoms. You see that? Very, very nasty looking stuff. Yeah. Alright, and then if you go back from there through his throat, down here, the injectors are all right in here, which these are the red injectors, these are the green. And you see them? They're regular injectors, one right after the other. And the same thing down here. And when they squirt together, it's a flow of death. And that goes down through his throat, and at a certain point, somewhere down around there, the injectors sort of stop. And then each continue, though, all the way down his throat. And of course, these are the dragon scales. They're very clear, easy to see, and they are in these little bumps like here, so that the neck can twist and still have that kind of strength. And it was, the whole dragon neck goes, the whole dragon is 1,000 miles long. And this is the runoff of a dead, decaying body, and any coroner will understand that. The red and the black and the yellow looking stuff is the blood. And this particular spot right here is his neck. Something cut that neck. Something cut that neck. And it cut it. That's a pretty serious neck to be cutting. But there is text that says it was cut with a great and mighty sword. And there's other spots down here that are cut too. Alright, so we have dragons. We have dragons. And this baby runs all the way to here. And his same flutie. Remember the flutie? Watch. That's where this thing ends. And of course, here's his tail at the end. There's the dragon scales. And then it starts to go into the flutie stuff as you come down here. You see the flutie stuff around here? And it's really cool looking stuff. Some of this stuff has great color to it. Like, look at this. Yeah. I think that's got like one of those flashy dots on the tail or something. Very, very strange looking stuff. And then of course it runs all the way out, almost into the Mediterranean, way over here. This is, it's again, here's this fluty looking stuff. You see it? And there's the end of his tail right there. So we're talking about an extremely large creature on top of another extremely large fish. So all I can say, and this is a fish. There's a fish's fin, and the dragon was attacking the fish, ate right into his flesh. You have Google Earth. This is all the fins, I mean the scales of the fish. This is his tail, of course. And this appears to have happened as the Sahara Ocean drained, and these creatures became either on land or whatever, and it drained and ran all this mud out here, exactly like Plato said. Herodotus puts Atlantis here. Atlantis is there. It's on his maps. All of them have it on the maps. Atlantis is right here. And they said it was just, the straits collapsed, and here's the straits. The boats are still in the ship, in the docks around the lee side of the island, where it didn't get stripped of its stuff that was going that way. So this side got ripped to shreds. This side still has its docks and everything else. You see all that? These are all docks. There's docks all in here, and those are all channels and boat slips. You see them way down in here? You see that? You gotta let it settle down and focus in. These are all the little inlets and all the little docks and boats, all down the coast. Zillions of them. It must have been a thriving area. So there's a lot that isn't, and of course all that stuff ran out into the ocean here and created what they consider to be an offshore avalanche. It was onshore. The Sahara Ocean drained into here. Alright, so that's my evidence for today about the new dragon in America. All right. Thank you, Mudfossil University. I love you. God loves you. And this is serious stuff. Be interesting to see how this plays out. All right. I can't discount anybody not believing there was dragons because, it's pretty hard to believe. But now we've seen this, no question it's true. And what is the historical documentation is very, very significant. And listen to this. I'm going to make some statements about when I think the dragons were here and when they came back, and now they're coming back again. So here goes.
The beast. The townspeople abandoned the pagan religion of Rome and converted to Christianity.
This was after
We
they
often
killed a
find
giant
in
dragon.
stories that the best heroes are the ones who have the most outrageous and formidable enemies to fight. So the dragon made a wonderful foil for Christian knights who had to prove themselves and prove the power of their religion over the old pagan religions.
So they think it's, obviously they think it was just something puffed up to make up stories, but it's not.
But how did the dragon myth spread all the way to England? As the legend has it, during the Crusades, a battalion of European soldiers was fighting a desperate battle in the Holy Land. Surrounded and vastly outnumbered, the Crusaders resigned themselves to death. Suddenly, an army of angels joined their ranks. The ghost of St. George led the charge.
St. George was the hero that killed the dragon and saved, I think it was a princess or some girl that was going to be eaten by the dragon. He killed the dragon, and he was made the patron saint of this one area, and they built a church to him. I think it's maybe Ethiopia or somewhere out in that area. Do some research on this, because I don't have all the answers, but you should watch this thing. They have a lot of the answers in this show. Here goes.
When the Crusaders returned home, George became England's patron saint, and the dragon became a fixture in medieval life.
I'm pretty sure they actually did make a church to him where he killed the dragon too, somewhere in Africa.
Across the continent, tales multiplied of marauding dragons that scourged the countryside, blighting crops and devouring maidens. Noble knights, in the ultimate test of their valor, confronted beasts with daunting characteristics.
Dragons do abide in deep caves. Sometimes they come out of their holes, and beating the air with their wings, they forsake the earth and fly aloft. Edward.
You see these little things? I think they have them, because I could see those in the one in Morocco.
Topsail, 1658.
All right, now I want to say something. In the book of Revelations, I'm not sure where it is, do a little research. It says that the dragon was bound in the earth, and they have to be let out every 1,000 years for a little while, which means obviously let them out, and obviously they have to go back in. So you have the Dark Ages, the middle, that would like 1,000 years after he was interred. Then the dragons were interred because they took the whole batch of them and said, you guys got to stay down here because you were bad. And now after 1,000 years, you get out and have a little R&R, do whatever you want. And that's what it says. You can do whatever they want. And I guess they wreaked havoc on the earth maybe 1,000 years ago. I'm just speculating. I have no clue if it's true or not. But they say they were replete with stories at this particular time. And then they apparently got rounded up and put back wherever they came from, where they killed them, whatever happened. And now I believe we are into that second 1,000 years right now. And in the second 1,000 years, it's all over. So here goes.
Of all the alarming behavior attributed to dragons, most deadly of all was fire.
All right, we know that it could do that too. So, the things that they're talking about here and in this documentary, and it's very well done, I've seen are all completely validated as far as my research goes. Totally validated, not just, oh, maybe, 100% validated. All right, there is some seriousness to this right here. It says Isaiah 27:1. In that day the Lord with his great and strong sword shall punish Leviathan, the piercing serpent, even Leviathan, that crooked serpent, and he shall slay the dragon that is in the sea. All right, if you go up here, it's Revelations 20:7. When 1,000 years are complete, Satan will be released. And I did a video on it right here. Dragon is loose after 1,000 years. So that's kind of long, but let's just see what it says in Revelations 20:7. All right. Blessed are the holy that who share in the first resurrection. That was after the first 1,000 years because they were put to death. The second death has no power over them, which was the one we will encounter. But they will be priests of God for that first 1,000, for the second 1,000 years, and of God and of Christ, and will reign with him for that 1,000 years. Then it comes into our last 1,000 years, which is our time. When the 1,000 years are complete, Satan will be released from his prison and will go out to deceive the nations in the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, to assemble them for battle. Their number is like the sands on the seashore, and it goes on from there. So every 1,000 years he has to be let out for a little while. And the second 1,000 years is when it's over and they get judged and we get judged. That's what it says. I don't know how to interpret it any other way.